Hello and welcome to the Listening Post's unboxing channel on YouTube. Today I'm unboxing Yamaha's brand new RX-A6. This amazing home theatre amplifier is stunning in every element of everything you would ever need in a home theatre amplifier. It's a 9-channel amplifier, about 150 watts when it's driving 2. Heaps of power across all of those 9 channels. But it shares their best 11-channel processor from the flagship single box, the RX-A8. So it means it's got pre-outs, you can expand it, you can do whatever you need for tomorrow, but have a relatively affordable box today. So, let's have a look. Firstly, this is a big theatre amplifier and it's very heavy. Like all of the larger amplifiers in its class, we see that it's been bound together with packing bands. Realistically, that's so you can sort of move it around in a warehouse or in a retail environment. Those packing bands clearly delineate the type of thing that's heavy and brilliantly well made. Removing those bands, very straightforward. Cut them off, pull them out, and we get to see the box itself. Now on one end with Yamaha we've got a serial number in scan information, Yamaha logo, and then a beautiful colour photograph of the amplifier itself. Being a newer vintage range, it's very square in its design. It's quite lovely. On the top of the box you actually see an elaborate amount of information associated with compliances, but also some of the key features. It's part of Yamaha's Musicast range, and of course that means streaming, Bluetooth, all of those things on board from a feature set perspective. Spotify, Tidal, Deezer, internet radio, podcasts, Bluetooth in, Bluetooth out to headphones perhaps, all on board. And given the zone capabilities of this being 9-channel, it'll pop up 3 brilliant zones for you as far as kitchens and outdoors and living rooms, along with maybe the theatre room as well. It's got Yamaha's Y-Power mic setup, that's part of its calibration. Again, absolutely perfect in its price point. There's a few other things. There's enhancement modes for people who are using compressed music like MP3s. It also features Q-Buzz, which new streaming, all of those compliance including Atmos and DTS X. The product is wireless and Wi-Fi, and it's an AirPlay and AirPlay 2 device as well. Right, let's have a look. So, opening these really easy. Simple little nicks on the side. Okay, lifting it forward. Firstly, we see the IEC power cord. We see a basic manual. It associates with what's in the box and a basic setup guide. We see Yamaha's Y-Power mic setup. It's important to understand that although this is a relatively modestly priced microphone, they test it up against studio grade microphones and use DSP in the mic setup process to give it a flat response, despite the fact it's a relatively cheap mic. That's awesome to see. Oh, associated with a mic, we've got a 4-location microphone tripod setup. So this is designed for the 3 points. You face it towards it, nice and level, listening position, and that gives a 4th for height, so that it's able to better determine the room, the acoustics and the speakers, and tune everything perfectly for you. In fact, when you plug the microphone in, it goes straight to that setup. It's awesome, so easy. We've got Yamaha's remote control. Now, I'm a fan of these. They've got a great look and feel, a great weight to it from a quality of build perspective. It's very easy to utilize the product. Setup is easy, navigation is easy. It's got scenes, 8 scenes on the remote, and again, hang around for some photographs, I'll show you some close-ups. The 8 scenes are a global preset across every element. Every user preset that you can change, you can set up as a scene. You could have a little wee quiet or dialogue focused mode where the center speaker is pumped up, or maybe turn up and turn down the subwoofer and save it as a preset. So that's amazing and awesome. The top of it highlights the fact that this amplifier can do up to 4 zones, although the 4th zone is HDMI matrix distribution only, just off to a TV. It will actively switch and allow you to distribute that to perhaps a television and speakers in a room using the 2nd and 3rd zones. Look, it's got all of the input selections you would require, all of the DSPs you require. It's really easy to use, and the remote feels good in the hand. Second thing we see is, of course, its batteries, and then the FM DAB aerial. There's a couple of pieces of polystyrene supporting the amplifier in the box, and it's brilliantly moulded around the curves and edges of the unit. Now, given the fact it's a heavy amplifier, the next step, of course, is to carefully lift it out. There's nothing in the bottom. And then Yamaha has that sort of bubble paper to protect the unit and ensure that it doesn't get scratched in transit. It's sellotaped, and removing that element of it is relatively straightforward. Just lift it, scoop it onto some of the feet, lift it again, and get rid of that packaging. And then we get the first glimpse of this beautiful, mighty home theatre amplifier. It's simple and elegant by its design, with an obvious volume control dead centre in the middle. Off to one side we see the Yamaha logo, and at the bottom a power switch. There's a USB input as well as the ability for it to charge things via a 5 volt. There's the 3.5mm Y power mic input and a 6 1/4 headphone output, which also includes the Silent Cinema headphone sort of effect to give you the illusion of having surround sound in headphones. You've got the Aventage logo, and above that again that big rotary encoder for the volume control. Then it's got the 4 touch sensitive panels at the front, buttons at the front for the 4 most used scenes, and above it an LCD dot matrix display. There's the model RX-A6A at the front, and above that the rotary encoder associated with every element of its setup, including an enter, left, right in its navigation. Now the combination of that allows you to navigate any number of different things associated with both the setup and everyday usability of the amplifier. In this state it is an input selector, and of course everything else is within its menu. Having a look just briefly at its side, we get an understanding of its depth. But it's the top that gives you a little bit more of what's going on. Firstly, as I tilt it forward, you'll see Yamaha's Aventage logo. Second, and hopefully the light catches it, this has dual chassis. It has a hardened plastic top over a steel chassis underneath. It allows for huge ventilation throughout the amplifier, and of course key components, not only amplification stages, but nowadays with the video processing requirements, the cooling has become really, really important in these AV receivers. To see all of that utilised is excellent in anything of its class. Again, if you catch the light, you'll see Yamaha's oversized power supply. Remember that this is delivering 9 channels of amplification. So if you've got a weak power supply, you're not going to be able to deliver the rated wattage. And this one does, and it does it in spades. The combination of this power transformer and the capacitors allowing it to drive that power through the amplification means we've got an effortlessness to its approach, and it's never going to run out of power in any domestic environment. Spinning it around again, we get to see the side, but like anything at this class, it's really the back where all the magic starts to happen. The amplifier is hugely well appointed. Firstly, we've got not one but 2 Wi-Fi antennas. The purpose of this is to ensure that it can communicate in both Bluetooth, 2.5 gig and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, as well as potentially run wireless rears. Although if anyone is going to be investing in something of this value, you're going to be cabling something decent for speakers at the rear. Starting from this side, we see a scannable information associated with its serial number, and above it an IEC power socket. Above that again we see my preferred connection for network, which of course is a cabled network. Much more robust, much more stable, far easier to set up if you use a cabled network socket. Just beneath the second Wi-Fi antenna is the matrix switchable HDMI output. This allows for any of the inputs to be selected via that HDMI, whether it be the fourth zone or associated with any of the amplified zones for a second television with some speakers. It has 7 HDMI inputs, all clearly labelled, and all of them are rated to the high frame rate 40 and 8K specification. You've got remote control in and out for IR, as well as trigger out for the purposes of powering on power amplifiers or dropping screens, TV lifts, all sorts of things, so that the state of this amplifier can then cascade and do some other things if required. Beneath the HDMI inputs are the balanced output, and over this side the balanced inputs. There are 2 HDMI outputs clearly labelled with this sort of white hatching. The first one features A.R.T or audio return, and the second is parallel for picture only. Beneath those we've got the outputs associated with the fact that there's 11.2 channels of processing on board. So although it's 9 channels of amplification, it'll process right the way up to 11.2, allowing you to tap off those into power amplifiers if you choose to do Atmos with multiple speakers or any other configuration. Making the most of that is actually really easy, like surprisingly easy. You get into it, set up, and you tell it kind of how you want to configure it, and the graphical user interface, full color, shows you how to map things and plug things in. It's a really excellent way of ensuring we can get the most out of this today and tomorrow. Beneath the pre-out, and again these are clearly labelled and cross-hatched because all of the outputs are in white, the inputs are left in black. Beneath that we see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 binding posts associated with its outputs. The amplifier gives you the ability to temporarily turn on those zones and shut down least utilised rears or Atmos speakers inside the AV room, and give you a very, very practical multi-room solution from just one box. And it's wonderful to see such a wonderfully spec'd, wonderfully priced AV receiver delivers all of those features as well. Over this side and under the first Wi-Fi aerial, we see the traditional analog inputs. Over on the far side there is an FM and DAB input for the aerial, a traditional phono preamp, and by the way it's bloody good. Above that there's an optical input specifically for the audio out of a TV, and then a series of inputs that can be switched associated with both optical, analog and coax inputs. Above that we've got a single component video and composite video input for some of the legacy items like cameras and Wii consoles and game consoles and things like that. It scales the analog video up to HDMI 4K standard outputs, and it's wonderful to see that, so that some of these legacy things that we always enjoy revisiting can be plugged in and out to a modern television. So there we have it. Yamaha's brand new RX-A6 AV receiver. This mighty beast of a single box home theatre amplifier. So proudly unboxed here at the Listening Post in Christchurch, New Zealand. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more, subscribe to our channel.